Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you go to boys up in Canada. You know we love you. Oh, Canada. I know you guys are waiting to hear that again. It's been a long time, just like football's back. But Big C, there's still no one I love more than all of the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for all you good old boys down south? Yeah. Yes, definitely, Big C. Speaking of a never-ending story, today's a beautiful day in California. I hear it's raining a lot for you good old boys down south. I do want to say today is July 26, 2017, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. And this segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, make sure you tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, one thing that was kind of disturbing just leading off in the world of sports, I've heard some good old things that happen down south. I know a lot of things are happening with the NFL tipping off. A lot of college football conferences are having media day. But what's up with Julio Jones going fishing and losing an earring, $150,000 earring? Was he fishing or was he really on a ski to a Big C? Which one would you say it was, Big C?
Well, you know, Julio had kind of a tough year on the water, Charles.
Yeah.
On a $50,000 boat, he couldn't get a bite. Later on, he goes down to Houston and he loses his Super Bowl ring. All right.
Wow.
And now we hear about him going out there on a sea-doo and losing $150,000 diamond earring. You understand, you can't go fishing, you can't go out on sea-doos, and you can't go to big football games expecting to walk away with some jewelry.
Well, that's funny too. Now fish are not dumb. They recognize that when you catching a fish and they're in the water and they see this worm coming in with a hook, they watch their brother get hooked up and snatched out of that water, Big C. And something shiny like that, fish go at things that are shiny. I believe that one of those fish jumped up and bit his ring, Big C. I don't think he lost his earring, Big C. Your thoughts? Yeah. That's funny when you look at how pretty those rings are. And ironically, there's so much building going on in the South. You have Atlanta, Arthur Blank. He's building, I guess they're opening the Mercedes-Benz Dome this year in Atlanta. Even the Georgia Dome was not a bad place to play football games, but I guess 20 years old is kind of obsolete now for the good old boys down south. But the fact that they're opening a brand new state-of-the-art Mercedes-Benz Dome, and here he is wearing a $150,000 earring in his ear while he's out on the water. I guess a man one. That's what they call. Is it called bling bling? Is that what they call it, Big C? Bling blinging? Can you imagine how many good old boys are going to be swimming in that bottom of that lake trying to find that shiny earring, Big C? I'm sure they'll find it, and hopefully he'll get it put back on his ear to be cleaned off. We talk about the world of sports, Big C. We talk about this whole thing with Kyrie Irving and LeBron James, and now it's going to be LeBron James and Derrick Rose. In the world of baseball, out here in San Francisco, just last night, Eduardo Nunez, which is a good player for the Giants, had a double in the third. In the fifth inning, he was traded to the Boston Red Sox. There was no ceremony. There was no media press pass, no conference, no anything. No one saying, I can't believe he's going to go to a different team. And people wonder about Kyrie. that's been media like all the last week or two. Kyrie and LeBron. Nunez gets traded in the 5th inning. No one seems to care. Big C, your thoughts?
Let's put it this way, Joseph. Kyrie is not going anywhere, okay?
You don't think so?
You can put together a wish list of where you want to go. And, the ironic part about this, has anybody heard from Kyrie on this matter?
No.
We've heard from everybody but Kyrie. We heard a little bit from Dan Gilbert today in his press conference, introducing the new GM of the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
But Kyrie Irving, Charlton, tell me 3 teams with people that you can trade for equal value with Kyrie Irving. Now, he's got 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
So it's not like he can get up and walk away. He's not going to sit out a season either. But you tell me 3 teams that have equal value of trading for Kyrie Irving that the Cavaliers want to deal with. All Derrick Rose was a backup insurance policy.
Yeah.
They've always had veteran guards on the bench. They had Smith, they had Williams. Those are veteran NBA guards who've been former All-Stars.
Yeah.
Derrick Rose is just another one of those guys. They're trying to find more firepower to be able to run with the Western Conference team when it comes down to the playoffs. It's not about size anymore. It's about matchups.
Wow.
And so when we look at Kyrie, we've heard this from everybody. Everybody's an expert on what Dan Gilbert and Kyrie is going to do.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to hear from Kyrie to say, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm waiting to hear from Dan Gilbert say he's traded. Other than that, this is all speculation. This reminds you of what they used to tell you when you were a kid. Throw some spaghetti on the wall.
some of us got to stick.
That's what media has got to hear.
Yeah.
We've heard this Kyrie run for an entire week.
Yeah.
Okay? Kyrie is over in France. But Kyrie, all the news about him was here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So he's coming back this evening or tomorrow from France.
Yeah.
When Kyrie gets in front of a mic and say, hey, I no longer want to be in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I refuse to play in Cleveland. And then Dan Gilbert stands up and says, look, I own you.
Yeah.
You're going no place.
You know what's interesting too? You know what's interesting about that, Big C? There's not a lot of talk about how they just can't keep up with Golden State. They can mix up guys all they want to. I don't think Derrick Rose adds anything. He averaged 18 points a game when he was healthy, but he's not a healthy player. He's definitely not a Kyrie Irving. He's a backup player, in my opinion, when it comes to those two guys. So LeBron James having an older guy that's had several surgeries and also some no-shows, and everybody has personal problems. But I just don't think it's the same kind of player. So maybe you're right. He will be staying back there in Cleveland with a lot of them good old boys. I do want to talk a few things, too, that are coming up in the world of sports. I just want to touch on it one more time, how you brought it up yesterday, and I've been seeing it all over the news today with the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. And it seems they have more felons on their team than they have Lombardi trophies, and we know they have 5 Lombardi trophies. But it just seems like Jerry Jones... One thing I do respect about Jerry, and a lot of guys don't like him because he has that kind of FU money and he tosses it around a lot, but he says he'll stand up, he'll back his players to the very end. Now, he didn't say what the end was until he lets them go. I know T.O. said Jerry Jones can look at you and tell you he loves you, and by the time you turn around, he's telling you we traded you, Big C. Your thoughts on the great Jerry Jones standing up until the very end, Big C, your thoughts? Yeah.
That's all they did with Whitehead.
Yeah.
Lucky was unlucky being there. He gets mistaken by, an identity scenario, and all of a sudden he's cut.
Yeah.
But Ezekiel Elliott is sitting there, facing potentially 3 felony charges, and he said, well, he has to make better decisions.
Yeah.
About how he assaults people.
Yeah.
That's what Jerry was saying. Jerry was saying about Greg Hart. He's like, look, we know the guy's a convicted felon.
Yeah.
But he can rush the passer, so we're going to keep him in here.
Yeah.
We're going to accept the trouble that he has.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones has 5 players right now on the Dallas Cowboys defense under contract, under NFL suspension for various drug policies and other incidents that have occurred.
Yeah.
That's okay because you're suspended by the NFL. You're the bad boy that we want.
Yeah.
Every since Jerry Jones has owned the Dallas Cowboys, players who have committed felonies, they have a roster spot with their team.
Yeah.
They're guaranteed. If you got a misdemeanor, that's not a heinous enough crime. You're going to get cut.
Yeah.
That's Jerry's policy.
Yeah.
If you got a felony,
Yeah.
we will keep you. You got a misdemeanor, we will cut you.
Well, I think Lucky was picked up by New York today. That just picked him up. So hopefully, it's a shame that they send their head coach out there and he has these sunglasses on Who was those good old boys up in Chicago? The Blues Brothers? Who were those good old boys? Yeah. Yeah, doesn't it seem like that's what Coach is doing when he's holding a press conference? Take the sunglasses off and look people in the eye, and obviously people respect the Cowboys what they did last year, but I think you gain more respect when you say, we made a mistake. You know, we fired the guy because we believe police blotter or whatever it was. And that happens to a lot of people, but when they're not football players, and he may still be in jail if he wasn't a football player and have all the media attention. That happens to a lot of men of color. Just ironically, he happened to be an African American, and he was thrown under the bus just because of what was told. And now, unfortunately, they won't even have the guts to come back and say, you know what, we're wrong. We apologize to the man. We apologize to his family. We apologize to any sponsorship that was looking at him. We apologize. We made a mistake. We had what they call a rush to judgment, but they haven't done that. All they're saying is, well, you know, he's kind of a marginal guy, and we were going to let him go anyway. Don't you think they need to stand out and say, we are America's team, and we're going to lead by example? We want to apologize to that man for having a rush to judgment. Basically, that make any sense? Yeah.
Where he done nothing wrong. That's what's wrong with corporate America, that you don't have to go out and apologize when you make a mistake. The NFL is the one that's wrong in all of this, Charles.
Yeah.
The commissioner. Because Goodell should have stepped in and said, no, this man is going to be reinstated back in the roster.
Yeah.
Because you have the ultimate power to do that. To say you made a decision based on fake evidence.
Yeah.
Donald Trump fake news.
I've heard that before. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad that the New York Jets, you know, and Todd Bowles picked him up today.
Yeah.
To give him a potential chance to earn another spot on an NFL roster, because he does understand the NFL game, Charleston. He's been there. He's not some rookie or free agent coming in off the street saying, hey, I'm trying to learn this game.
Yeah.
He has NFL mentality. So it was a good move and gesture by the New York Jets to bring him in, because they need to shore up their receiving core. They've let their starting receivers from last year go.
Yeah.
Decker and Marshall.
Yeah.
So they have to rebuild, and to have a good kick returner, which this kid did that for Dallas last
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Could be a potentially career starter for him going to a team that he has not put under the spotlight.
Well, I think when you look at New York, and we're going to touch on the NFL in just a little bit because training camp's open in most places, I'm thinking that the New York Giants maybe didn't have the same type of publicity that Dallas is having right now. I can understand Jerry Jones trying to deflect things, because as much as Dallas looks good, we know Ezekiel Elliott, we know Prescott, they're amazing when they're on the field. You know, Prescott, for such a young man, I can tell you this kid could be and I don't want to put any guy on a pedestal, but I've seen Prescott do everything right. He's composed. He addressed the media, said we're going to focus on the game, and that's an internal issue. We'll let the ownership deal with that. I want to focus on winning. And while they're focused on that, remember, we said last year, in fact, well, you said it last year, I was just talking to you, but you said when they started Tony Romo on that game against Philadelphia on the road, because they wanted to have him, I guess, rekindle some type of relationship with the Dallas media, you said that was going to kill the momentum for the Dallas Cowboys, and it did. It took them 2 halves to get ready for that Green Bay game, and they ended up losing because they fell behind when the momentum of taking out Prescott to put in Romo to throw a touchdown pass. That's like bringing your ex-girlfriend into your new relationship. It destroys things, Big C. That make any sense? Yeah.
You got 6 months to sit down and rest. You don't
Yeah.
sit down for one game and rest, because
Yeah.
one game will kill all of what you've built to get to that point. Rhythm is everything in professional sports. It's like we saw that in the last NBA Finals. Every time they took LeBron out of the lineup,
Yeah.
what happened to the rhythm of the Cavaliers' offense?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, if they had a lead, it was evaporated. This happens. You know, a quarterback has to stay in rhythm. When was the last time that Aaron Rodgers had been set down, Charlton?
Not that I recall.
To come and get some rest. You know, we look at Matt Ryan. He hasn't been set down.
No.
You know, you go up and down the legend. Tom Brady didn't get set down. Even as much as the media loves Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick didn't sit down Tom Brady in the last game so that Garoppolo gets some rest.
Hey.
We didn't see Peyton Manning in his last year say, hey, Peyton,
Right. Yeah, that's funny, Big C. You know, I guess nowadays everybody gets a trophy, but I just want to say that because we're going to touch on the NFL briefly here, and then we're going to finish up with the Pac-12. But you know, in the world of sports, the New York Giants, I think by having Marshall and then Beckham on the outside, which one you're going to cover? They have a great. I mean, I want to say that Manning's a great quarterback, but he's a decent quarterback as long as he knows the color of the uniform that his team is wearing, because he tends to throw a lot of balls to the other guys. But I think having Marshall come over there, that's going to kind of stretch the field. You can't overload the field on one side with the defensive coverage not Big C. So that might be something Jerry Jones wants to keep. Yeah. Oh, he's off the hook. Yeah. Yeah.
This receiving core with the Giants, Charlton, is dangerous as any receiving core in the NFL going into training camp.
I agree, Big C. So speaking on that, we're going to run down the NFC East real quick, just to kind of an overflow of it. Dallas Cowboys finished 13-3 last year. The Giants beat them twice, and Philly got them once. But the Giants beat them twice. The Giants were 11-5. The Redskins 8-7, and Philadelphia 7-9. And when I look at that record that Dallas and the Giants have, the reason it's so important is because both of those teams, they were 7-1 at home. If we get Ezekiel Elliott suspended, I'm not saying we, but if something happens, that's why Jerry Jones wants to advocate so much. If they lose that running back for 1 or 2 games, Big C, they could fall behind the Giants, because both teams may go 7-1 at home again this year. But definitely, I think the Giants are a lot better as far as what they've done in the offseason than what Dallas did last year. Would that make any sense to you, Big C?
Well, the Dallas Cowboys, Charlton, are going through some adjustments offensively. A lot of people don't understand. They're going to have 2 new offensive linemen this year from what they had last season. And then if Elliott's out of the lineup for any length of time, trying to get that coordination and timing down between these offensive linemen and the running game, Charlton, is going to be kind of difficult. If you go back a couple decades ago when the Cowboys had won a Super Bowl, and Emmitt Smith wanted to get paid, and he held out.
Yeah.
So he didn't have that running back that was a staple of the offense. Everybody thought, well, hey, Troy can get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they had nobody to run the football, so it was easy to know that they were going to be passed to the ball.
Yeah.
So without that solid running game, Derek McFadden, has been a workman pro.
Yeah.
But he's still not Ezekiel Elliott. He has the speed, but he doesn't have the cutting ability of an Elliott. So that running game would be downgraded with McFadden in the backfield, and that's the reason why they drafted Elliott, and he became the starter, and McFadden became the backup.
Oh, yeah, I knew he was a star when I watched him. He grew up in Missouri, was an all-star player there. He didn't go to Missouri, ended up going just to get away from home and went up to Ohio State. A lot of guys go up to the Buckeye State and play up there. And the Buckeye is a nut from what I understand, but he's acting like a nut. He needs to really get his head on his shoulders, because if they go 7-1 at home this year, they could probably be in the NFC Championship game again. If they go 6-2, they may get knocked out of it. Big C, in the NFC North, the Packers were as hot as any team last year at the end. Aaron Rodgers just ran up against Father Time, it seems. And they were 10-6 last year. They were only 6-2 at home at Lambeau Field, so it doesn't have the mystique and the appeal that it used to have. Detroit was 9-7 last year. They were also 6-2 at home. The Vikings in their brand new stadium, 8-8 on the season, 5-3 at home. And the Bears, they could have stayed home for 13 of their 16 games because they went 3-13, but they still got paid in those games. Only 3 and 5 at home at Soldier Field. Your thoughts on the North? Can anyone realistically challenge the Green Bay Packers, Big C? Yeah.
Dalvin Cook, when you look at what he did at Florida State, his numbers are unparalleled by anybody coming out in the draft this past season.
Yeah.
So, and you're adding that speed. So that will upgrade their running game, because it was running back by committee last year. You talked about Green Bay.
Yeah.
Green Bay they were plagued by injuries.
Yeah.
Time is injuries.
Yeah.
When you think about all the teams that were in the playoffs, the last 4 teams in the NFC, the Green Bay Packers were just beat up. They were held together by Band-Aids and bubble gum.
Yep, and duct tape. Don't forget the duct tape.
To where they were.
Yeah.
And so, but Aaron Rodgers, being a savvy veteran, he kept them in there. And you think about about that NFC Championship game against Atlanta.
Yeah.
If not for 3 unfortunate turnovers, that could have been a different game.
Yeah, definitely a different game. And now you led me into the perfect scenario. And before I get to that perfect scenario, because they have a brand new everything in Atlanta, I just want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And when you need athletic and event insurance, you go through Ben and Mark. They work with Big C Sports. They've been around for half a century. Whether you're a pro athlete, a collegiate athlete, your high school, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, reach out to Big C Sports and Ben and Mark. They got you covered. Big C, you just talked about the great, I mean, Julio Jones is going to have to find that earring. Hopefully Arthur Blank has enough money to buy him another one, but maybe he'll go let him fish for it on his own. But I do want to ask him, you know, the Super Bowl hangover is real. We saw what happened with Carolina when they didn't get back into the playoffs, Big C. If you look at Atlanta, they were 11-5 last year. They were only 5-3 at home in Georgia Dome. They have a new atmosphere now. I think that stadium probably will be the most beautiful stadium in the world of NFL football. But they were only 5-3 last year at home in Georgia Dome. Tampa Bay, I think they're much improved. 9-7 on the season last year. Only 4-4 at home. The Saints, Drew Brees, I know is a big name down there, but I don't think the same Drew Brees from the last 10 years. And 7-9 was their record. 4-4 at home. And also Carolina with the great Cam Newton coming off for surgery. Can he hit the ground running? They were only 6-10 last year, coming off a Super Bowl loss, and 4-4 at home. Big C, your thoughts on the NFC South?
The only NFC team to make it back to the NFC Championship game in the past 5-6 years has been the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Everybody else has failed to get past the first round. So when we look at this shocking loss that Atlanta had, with the I think we got to get some feathers out of their throat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's very tough to get over.
Yeah.
To think that you had a game, you sit there dividing your rings at halftime, and you got the champagne on ice.
Yeah.
I wonder where they poured that champagne.
In the river someplace.
Go check. So that's the toughest thing. People always talk about working to get back.
Yeah.
But they were 11-5 team that made it to the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 3 losses at home. That's going to be tough to overcome. You got an up-and-coming, Tampa Bay team.
Yeah.
Carolina will be back. Ron Rivera is not going to let that team stay down. So they got a very tough position in a very tough division.
Yeah.
I expect Matt Ryan to be the player that he was, but he left a lot on the table in Houston last year.
Yeah. That's.
How do they get over that mentally? Knowing that you were the team that should have won the game,
Yeah.
but you were the team that...
Big C, what you need to do is ship some of that moonshine down to Arthur Blank, because it was kind of like the Jerry Jones curse, when Jerry Jones likes to come down and get on the sideline because he wants to be an athlete. I know he played back in the day at Arkansas. I remember Arthur Blank, he came down and he sat on the turf. He had that red jacket. I don't know why red is popular in Atlanta, but maybe he should have worn a blue blazer and he wouldn't have been such a distraction. But that red, it looked like a fire truck would pull up to the sideline, and I think that's what cost him in the Super Bowl. He should have stayed up in the press, in the what they call luxury suites. Big C, he should have stayed up there, and maybe he'll stay up there if they get a chance to get back there again with that gorgeous stadium they have. We're going to close out on the NFC West, and we'll touch on the AFC tomorrow, Big C. We're getting into the Pac-12 football as well. In the NFC West, Seattle just won't go away. 10-5, actually 10-5-1 last year. They were 7-1 at home, and that's still a great place. Obviously, I think the loudest place in the NFL to play, and some people say it may be Kansas City. You have Arizona, 7-8 last year, a subpar season, 7-8-1 actually. Only 4-3-1 at home down in the desert. And then the Rams, who knows what's going to happen to the Rams? I don't think they want the quarterback that was drafted last year with Fisher. They were 4-12 playing at the Coliseum. They were only 1-7 at the Coliseum. Recall they had 90,000 fans for their first game. Their last game probably had about 40,000 fans. And then the 49ers with a pretty much brand new ballpark down there in Silicon Valley. They were 2-14 on the season last year, and they were 1-7 at home. They blamed all of it on the great Colin Kaepernick, the last quarterback to take them to a Super Bowl. Big C, your thoughts on the NFC West?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think their run game will be much stronger. You got to also realize that they were starting 2 rookie offensive linemen last year. So you got to beat the quarterback.
Yep.
2 rookie offensive linemen. Doug Baldwin, though, really evolved as one of the top flight wideouts in the NFL last year, Charles.
Yeah.
That defense stayed solid the entire year. So Seattle, Pete Carroll has something up there in the Northwest where he has a dominant team. You think about the number of times they've been in the Super Bowl as well as in the playoffs
Yeah.
in the past 8 years. They're solid. So this is a team that's not going away, and I really don't see any challenge. You know, in New Orleans, they got rid of their best wideout, so this is a team that's on the rebuilding. San Francisco, I don't even know if they're bringing anybody in the training camp.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at the NFC West, and you're talking about your buddies down there in Los Angeles who are still searching for a quarterback.
Yeah.
They signed a guy who can't even stay in the end zone when he's throwing.
Yeah.
To back up the guy that can't even throw the ball down the field.
Yeah.
So this is Seattle's division not to lose.
Well, Big C, that makes a lot of sense. Today, also, as we transition on our final segment, you know, we love this time of year. For anyone who's kind of feeling melancholy, sometimes the winter can do that to you, or some people can feel just exhausted from all the heat that's been rolling over California. But when football is back, it makes everything a lot better, Big C. And today they had the PAC-12 Media Day down in beautiful Hollywood, and obviously the PAC-12, Jake Browning, they took Washington to the College Football Championship Series. They lost to Alabama in that 4-game playoff. And then, you know, Sam Darnold led USC. They get off to a slow start when they drugged those horses down. And at the Alabama game, it was some moonshine. It wasn't Gatorade. They're like, what in the world? This Gatorade tastes nasty. But them good old boys, they kept drinking it. They realized Nick Saban has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, Big C. But Darnold, I think, would be a difference maker for the Trojans. They're always loaded with talent. I think Josh Rosen, it'll be a telltale game when they start with Texas A&M out of the SEC. And so we know those players we're going to be looking forward to seeing those guys. But I do want to ask you, we talked about the great players in the history of the Pac-12 and the SEC. We touched on the Big Ten and the ACC as well as the SWAC, or the Southwest Conference, also a Big 12. And now I want to ask you, because you're a defensive guy, a lot of you guys like to hold and you like to do a lot of things. You get to hit people and you get paid for it, Big C. So I know you're salivating about what's coming up. Just want to get your thoughts. History of the Pac-12 Conference. Who would you rate as some of the top defensive players in the history? We know Ronnie Lott, we know Kenny Easley, Willie McGinnis, Junior Seau. But just talk about your thought in the Pac-12, known as a passing conference. They've had some great defensive players come out of that conference, Big C. Your thoughts? Yeah. Yeah.
Just a star-studded cast. I mean, you look at some present players that are in the NFL, some retired players. I mean, right now you look at Terrell Suggs in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Out of Arizona State, one of the greatest pass rushers in the NFL all time. You know, just a tremendous player. Willie McGinnis, you spoke about him. Out of USC, playing with the Patriots, having multiple Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
Andre Carter, a tremendous defensive end out of the University of Cal, who spent several star-studded years in the NFL. Jim Jesco
Yeah.
was a staple of the Dallas Cowboys something for a long, long time. So when you think about him, one of the more dominant defensive linemen ever was Steve Edmonds.
Oh, out of Washington.
University of Washington.
Yeah.
Just a beast, Jordan. You know, you think about Gary Jeter, an all-star defensive end who played a long, illustrious career with the New York Giants.
Yeah.
You think about the late Junior Seau, Charlton.
Yeah.
21 years in the NFL, roaming from sideline to sideline as a linebacker. One of the greatest linebackers ever
Yeah.
in the pack.
Yeah.
Was Jerry Robinson, who played at UCLA. All-American, two-time All-American there. Ricky Huntley, who played in Arizona. An all-star linebacker, you know, an all-pro linebacker with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Charlton, these guys had illustrious careers. Let me take you back even a little further. USC used to have a defense back in the 70s, and this is before ESPN and you know, they BCS
Yeah.
generation of players.
Yeah.
You know, they had this linebacker named Richard Wood. His nickname was Batman because he just flew around, Charlton, hit everything that moved, whether it was in the game or out of the game.
Yeah.
You know, this was a tremendous player. You know, you think about some of the great defensive backs that have been out there. You think about a George Brown, who's had a great career with the
Yeah.
You know, he played a long, long time. You think about, Dennis Thurman, great player with the Dallas Cowboys for over a decade.
Yeah.
Eric Allen, tremendous cornerback. You talk about Ronnie Lott, one of the greatest safeties in NFL history as well as in college football.
Yeah.
He played quarterback at UNC.
Yeah.
Before being converted to a safety with the 49ers. I think about Don Rogers, who lost his life prematurely, who backed up Kenny Easley at, UCLA. Kenny Easley and Ronnie Lott came out in that same class
Yes.
out of the PAC in the NFL that same year. Don Rogers followed, and he was a tremendous safety at UCLA also, Charles. But when you think about these players over the decades, the PAC has been a feeder system, like we talked about the Southwest and, the SWAC.
Yeah.
Being a feeder system for the NFL with African-American players. It has been that same way with the PAC. When you look over the years at some of the great players that have come out of that conference, that stellar forces in the NFL, some have gone on to greatness of the NFL Hall of Fame, Charlton. It's just a roadmap to success.
Yeah.
Being in a conference where you can run and pass the football.
And Big C, when you think about that, because we always talk about how many great players came out of what conference. The guys on offense get a lot of glory because they're the ones getting in the end zone. But just bringing up guys like Ronnie Lott and Easley, a lot of them good boys that played, and they played a game when they didn't necessarily have all the attention that you give with all the stats now, and everyone has their analytics. But Ronnie Lott also was a star player at Eisenhower High School, Rialto, California, down in Southern California. So a lot of good players out of the Pac-12 conference, offensively and defensively. And even with that, I just want to say posthumously the late Pat Tillman, who served our country and played football in the Pac-12 as well. Just a lot of good things that happened with players. And you think of Ray Malaluka and Brian Price and, just so many great players. I just think that we got to look at some of these coaches. I think if you go back, just Donnie James, to me, up at the University of Washington, was kind of a strength and a pillar of a coach for the Pac-12. And I know we have so many people like back John McKay back at USC back in the day, Donahue at UCLA. Just talk about some, and then we just lost the coach that coached at Arizona State. I think Coach Cush. But that was in the Pac-8, but still the part of the Pac-12 family now. Just talk, if you can, about some of the coaches that really made that conference stand out in the way that they carried teams successful every single year that they were there. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charles, when you look at the coaches that coached in the PAC in the 60s and the 70s, they didn't deal with segregation. They dealt with athletes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Best players.
Yeah.
They didn't deal with the mentality of the Southern conferences, Charlton, where, there was whites only.
Yeah.
They looked at the best athlete, the best opportunity to make their teams great. Because when you go back to the 60s, you think about Mike Garrett being a Heisman Trophy winner at USC
Yeah.
in the early 60s. This is an African-American running back playing in one of the dominant schools on the West.
Yeah.
You think about O.J. Simpson winning the Heisman Trophy in the 60s also.
Yeah.
So this is a university that had produced two Heisman Trophy winners, Charlton, when segregation was very prominent in the United States. And so they had a wealth of players across the board that they brought in from all over the country. They recruited nationally. UCLA did this, University of Washington and Oregon.
Yeah.
These schools were trailblazers as far as allowing African-American athletes to have opportunities. We talked about in the past the great Jackie Robinson, who still holds the NCAA record for average yards per game for any running back to rush for over 1,000 yards. We averaged 11 yards a carry at UCLA back in the 40s.
Yeah.
So you think about how far this conference goes back. The great Woody Strode, who was an All-American end at UCLA on the same team with a Jackie Robinson, who went on to become one of the great character actors in
Yeah.
the U.S.
Yeah.
So, this is a conference that has given opportunity over the decades. Let's even look at another great actor, John Wayne.
The Duke.
Football at USC also.
Yeah.
So this is the conference that has provided opportunities not just for actors, but for athletes. Mark Herman, a great quarterback at UCLA, went on to play several key-role television
Yeah.
series, Charles,
Yeah.
over the years. So this is a program, this is a conference that has been there for players, regardless of the background, regardless of the social beliefs,
Yeah.
or religious beliefs. The Pac-12 has been America's
And you know, Big C, one thing, too, that's a footnote to that statement. If you look at John McKay when he led USC up against the great Paul Bear Bryant down at Alabama, and they beat Alabama, and he led Paul Bear Bryant to say, I got to get me some of those, which he meant black athletes. There's a statue of Paul Bear Bryant outside of Bryant-Denny Stadium. There's no statue of John McKay outside of the Coliseum. Talk about a juxtaposition in that. The guy that made the difference in college football, it wasn't Paul Bear Bryant. It was John McKay saying it's okay to integrate society and treat people fair. And I think he doesn't get enough credit for that, Big C. Back in the day, there's a promoter by the name of Drew. Yeah.
He was the first
Yeah.
prominent head coach to start an African-American player at quarterback on a nationally ranked team.
Yeah. Yeah. And he doesn't get the credit.
Think about what he did with Vince Evans, Charlton, starting him on a nationally ranked team, put him on the national spotlight,
Yeah.
national television, where everybody could see him. He was one of the first head coaches to do that.
Yeah.
He wanted to have the best opportunity for his team to win and put the best athlete available in that position. So he didn't care about race. He cared about what was best for his team and his university. And he was one of the leaders, Charlton, in starting African American quarterbacks on nationally ranked teams.
Big C, that's a very good statement. Back in the day, there was a great promoter by the name of Drew Mondini Brown. He worked with Muhammad Ali, and he said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
I'm looking for Kyrie Irving to land here in the U.S. so we can finally hear his voice.
Yeah.
And columnists say what Kyrie wants, because Kyrie hasn't said a word. So I don't know if he went mute or something all of a sudden, but I'm thinking Kyrie Irving this week, Charlton.
Yeah.
So he can finally put the rest, and Dan Gilbert really to shut everybody and say, we're not trading.
That's a very good point. But I also want to tell you another good point is every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you, there's never any reason for domestic violence. If you know anyone in trouble, man or woman, just call 911, because no one should have to deal with that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports program, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.